Okay, so we should be sharing. Not that screen. Okay, let me see. Let's stop sharing. Oh, there we go. I just might need to turn off the, yeah, so that's turned off. I just need to ask people to mute, and I'm just going to let a couple more people into the call. It's brilliant. People are joining us. Just going to ask, yeah, great. Thanks for muting. So let's try and screen share one more time. That's what's happened. So I was sharing the right screen, but it needs to be this one. There we go. We've got everything in place now.
Okay.
Okay, so now I am so delighted to be able to welcome Catherine Lord from Mason Frank, who's been a great supporter of Coding Black Females, to talk about career progression tips. So over to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Mariam, and a warm hello to everyone that's managed to join us. I may have met some of you previously at some of the events, but otherwise, if I haven't, I'll give a quick intro to myself first. So my name's Catherine Lord. I've been in recruitment for over 20 years, and I'm one of the directors here at Frank Recruitment Group. We're a niche cloud tech recruitment firm. We work under our kind of parent company, Temp Revolution Group, and we have got multiple kind of brands that we kind of recruit into, and they align with all of the kind of main vendors and kind of tech stacks. So I'll go into detail in it in a moment, but yeah, today I'm going to be talking to you around kind of career progression tips. So if we can just bump to the next slide, Mariam.
Okay. Is that the next one? Sometimes I hit it twice.
Yeah, move on to the next one from there as well,
great.
Actually. So Frank Recruitment Group, we're a global firm. We have offices across Europe, across the UK. We've got 2 in the UK, London and Newcastle. And we've got a massive presence in the US as well. We also have APAC and also Australia offices. And so we have kind of key brands, which are up on the slide then. So the majority of our hiring is aligned with the key kind of brands that we work under. So if you just go back one step, Mariam. So we have our Nigel Frank brand, which is aligned to our Microsoft division. We have our Jefferson Frank brand, which is aligned to our AWS division. We have our Salesforce division, which is Mason Frank. And then we have also kind of broader tech pieces that we're hiring for as well. So ERP talent we provide, ServiceNow talent, IT consulting talent, NetSuite talent. So I think quite a few of you that were probably on the call that are kind of coding specialists would be under our FRG technology consulting brand. So yeah, we are providing talent across the kind of UK within my office in London, and that's both on a contract and permanent basis. So if I go on to the kind of, I suppose, top tips now. So I've broken them down into kind of 8 sort of suggestions and ideas, and I'm going to go into them in a bit more detail. We'll keep it quite kind of, I suppose, succinct or short and sweet, and then you can always kind of ask questions at the end or give any feedback, or if you want me to give any specific examples, then very happy to run through those as well. So the first top tip I had put down was setting clear goals. Now, you might have a clear goal to find a job. You might have a clear goal to want to have a promotion. You might have a clear goal that you want to earn a certain amount of money to go on holiday. But I suppose having a clear goal that's also achievable as well, I just think helps with giving yourself a very specific target to work towards. I always think that it's a really good way of getting yourself, I suppose, channeled into a kind of way of thought or concentrating really on what you want to achieve at the end of either a kind of a month or a year or even a day. Even within Frank Recruitment Group, we all still have day plans of what we want to achieve each day. And I think having achievable goals is just a fantastic way of kind of getting consistency and making sure that you feel like you're moving in the right direction as well. I think if the milestones are kind of smaller, sometimes that's kind of easier to work with. So that's what one of my first kind of top tips. So for example, for me, I run a division within Frank Recruitment Group, and I have quite a considerable team, and there will be certain clients that I would love to work with. And the end goal, would be to kind of improve our kind of revenue streams or the reputation or the amount of clients that we hire for in the market. But there will be kind of key clients that I'll target over a certain month where if I win those key clients, that will get me towards my end goal. So that's just kind of a personal example from me, really, but I'm sure that you can all set your kind of own as well. Continuous learning, I think, continuous learning is absolutely imperative. I think people that don't continually learn often kind of stand still. When you stand still, you kind of go backwards in today's society. So I think you need to stay updated with kind of industry trends, take courses, workshops, put yourself forward for any kind of an additional learning kind of opportunity. And I think that really helped your professional development. I think mentor programs, we're just about to relaunch our mentorship program ourselves, called Mentor Me, which is for IT professionals, females that have been in IT roles for 3 to 5 years, and they get mentored by some of our senior clients, either CTOs, CIOs, or the layer below that. And that's a great way of kind of getting kind of exposure, but also learning from someone that's a fantastic role model as well, because sometimes the skills that you need to learn are soft skills. They could be communication skills or organizational skills, etc., or setting boundaries, as much as pure technical skills as well. I know the technical side, Coding Black Females obviously do an awful lot linked to that already, and there's lots of courses and boot camps that you can put yourself forward to, but I absolutely believe in learning. I think it's one of the key things that I've done over the years. I absolutely love being trained still as the director, and I think it has really improved my success levels and my development. The next top tip I would suggest is building a strong network. The brilliant thing with something like Coding Black Females is that you would be able to build your network, maybe even peer network. You can all kind of, I suppose, suggest ideas and think tank around new ideas, even to look for a job, for example, or even support or get a mentor, whatever it might be. I think it's great to use your network. And I think the bigger that you build that, and that might be through a LinkedIn community, it might be something through, Coding Black Females. I think, you can never have too big a network within the professional space. And sometimes you need to draw upon that later down the line. I know that for myself, where, for example, I might have wanted legal advice from someone, I've got friends that maybe I went to university with that are now lawyers. So, or there might be somebody from school that is in IT and I might need advice on that. So it's really important to be able to utilize that in the future, I think. The fourth top tip is asking for feedback. And I think it's really important as well during even an interview process as well. I think getting feedback from people below you, people within your peer group, and also people above you is really excellent way of learning more about, I suppose, yourself, and also where you can kind of develop over the next, month, 6 months, 12 months. Because I think quite often people probably don't realise where they might be. They might fall down, or they might actually do too much. And they probably need to set clearer boundaries. But actually, if you don't get that feedback, you never know. It's just making sure you don't take that feedback to heart and you use it constructively, because to be honest, it's sometimes difficult when people are giving feedback, because you're like, you need to have time to reflect on it. It's very easy to be quite emotive linked to it. So I absolutely believe in kind of constructive feedback. I ask for feedback still from my teams. So that's my kind of fourth top tip. My fifth suggestion was taking on new challenges and stepping out of your sort of comfort zone. I think some of this is linked to like learning new skills, isn't it? When I was younger, I joined the TA when I was in my kind of early 20s, and I've now got my HGV license. And although I left the TA, some of those challenges and those skills and the operational resilience and everything else that kind of goes with putting yourself forward to those challenges, I still think have made me a better person and a better employee now. So it may be that you want to go from, I know, couch to 5K, and it be a physical challenge because it helps your well-being, it helps your mental health. It might be a learning challenge. It could be, you know, taking on charity work, anything that challenges you, that gives you a different perspective, I think can be a real benefit. And then my kind of sixth tip was developing leadership skills. So for leadership, I suppose what I would say is that leadership skills can kind of grow from when you're quite in your first kind of 1 to 2 roles to when you're actually a very senior leader. You don't need to be in a leadership role to start learning leadership skills. And what I think is that you can kind of start kind of honing into those leadership skills kind of early on, and that can really benefit your career growth, because you kind of understand you're putting yourself in the position of other leaders as well. So I would say, you know, anywhere, even if you're running a house at home, you know, you are leading that family quite often, and that is a leadership skill. All of those organizational skills that you do at home, you can put into best practice in the workplace. It's surprising how many females, as well as males, will make lots and lots of decisions. They'll have a lot of autonomy at home. They'll be used to kind of making, you know, kind of judgments on information that they're giving and then actioning off the back of that. And you can use all those skills that you've honed previously to kind of make you better in the workplace. And then the seventh idea is maintaining a work-life balance. In my opinion, it can be increasingly more difficult for females to maintain that balance, because sometimes more childcare or even elderly parental care can fall on females than males. Hopefully that balance is changing. It's not always the case in my household, but getting that balance and making sure that you kind of also have time for yourself and self-care as well is really important, because otherwise you can just get completely burnt out. So although we want to be progressing in our careers, you need to be in for the long haul. And so therefore it's kind of, I suppose, all around pacing yourself and not being put upon, because when you're very efficient, and I'm sure all of you on the call are, sometimes people will ask more of you, which absolutely makes sense. You would always ask somebody that's very efficient to do something. What do they say? If you want something doing, ask a busy person. But actually, you also need to be able to say no sometimes. And I think that's probably a skill that I've had to learn, because I'm probably ultimately a people pleaser deep down. So maintaining a work-life balance is definitely important. And in an age where we have the internet everywhere, emails on our phones, social media everywhere, I think it can sometimes encroach on our personal sort of time and space. And I think it's making sure there is some kind of divide, especially if you're working at home quite a bit. It's good to be able to get out for a walk, to be able to kind of switch off as well into the evenings. So, and my final top tip, I would say, for career progression, is around sort of showing initiative, taking the initiative on kind of, I suppose, in your current role, proposing kind of questions at interview, for example. You must always have 1 to 2 questions up your sleeve when you're sitting in an interview, because you need to know kind of what their culture is like, why people have joined a certain team, why people have joined a certain firm, because you want to know that you are going to fit into that culture, and also that you can kind of add value, and also where your career is going to be taken with that firm, because although you want to be hired, you also want to make sure that the fit is correct. And I think showing initiative and asking questions is a great way of kind of proving that you kind of think outside the box, and that you'll probably be a really keen learner and a keen employee. So there's lots of tips. I could probably talk kind of pretty much all day on how to kind of progress kind of careers, but I think in some ways it might be good to kind of open it up to the audience to see if you've got any kind of questions. Really, for me, I'm happy to answer any questions which are linked to my own career progression, or otherwise maybe your own.
Yeah, yeah.
Marion, do you want to ask the floor?
Yeah, there's already one comment from Amalia that says the clear goals section is so true. I think as a beginner coders, we are inundated with so much information, i.e., programming languages and career paths, and really narrowing focus is key to helping us move in the right direction instead
Absolutely.
of being distracted across many different directions. I wonder if others feel the same about that kind of how to focus and ways to focus when you're starting out with coding.
Yeah, and I think coding would be the same as kind of when I was running the Salesforce recruitment division at Frank. I found that people were more successful if they kind of specialized in a very specific tech stack, specific coding language. I think being a specialist in anything and not going too wide is always the best thing to do, and that's across all business actually, and probably your own kind of day-to-day life as well. So absolutely, I think there can be an awful lot of noise in the market, and I think if you look at some of the key trends, you look at the sectors that are very specifically hiring, for example, if you were looking for a job, or if you look at the coding language which is really kind of taking off and you feel like there's going to be a growth journey, then you need to kind of focus your search on that, but also make sure you maintain your search on that as well, because what people do is I think they give up sometimes too quickly when there actually could be an opportunity which was quite, which would come about longer term, but unfortunately, they perhaps lose faith in their job search.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And I think Angelita's asking about your career progression as well. And maybe, you often to tell that story. That would be really interesting.
Yeah,
I
so
think
career
to
path
participants.
wise, so I joined a large recruitment firm, Hayes, straight after university. My mum sent me the advert in the post and was like, "Do you think you should get a job after university?" And I joined actually 2 weeks after. And I don't think I really knew what recruitment was then. I think I probably thought it was HR more than it was kind of sales actually. And I've been in it for 24 years this year. So I spent 18 years working at Hayes. I did an awful lot of business development roles, but I did some management roles as well. And I suppose what I loved more than anything about the job was client development and being in front of clients. So I probably tailored my career towards that path, but it's whatever you kind of feel comfortable with. I do think that if you're good at something and that you enjoy something, then you're more likely to be successful in it. So I spent 18 years at Hayes. I had my 2 children. I have a 9-year-old Millie and I have a nearly 12-year-old Sam, who's just gone to secondary school, loses everything, boys. And so I had my 2 children. I worked part-time. I wouldn't say I went into a career cul-de-sac, but I definitely focused as much on family life as I focused on work life. But when my last, so Millie went to primary school, I probably wanted to step up my kind of career progression. And I did that by leaving Hayes and moving to a smaller search and contingency firm, which was a legal risk and compliance firm. So I spent 3.5 years there. I launched their interim division. It went global. I launched in APAC and US and built out a very successful business across London, the UK and Europe. And I worked an awful lot with the partner teams as well to kind of develop the business in general. And actually, some of my old ex colleagues from Hayes had always worked in tech recruitment and were senior and on the board at Temp Revolution Group and Frank Recruitment Group. And they had always probably wanted to hire me. But as I'd had so much more experience from where I had gone to this kind of boutique firm, I had probably become a very marketable candidate. And so therefore, circumstances changed at my old firm. And I decided to move on, and I had a very nice 4.5 month garden leave, and then I moved to kind of Frank and made a complete change in sector. So my sector obviously is now tech, where it had been legal risk and compliance. But the best practice that works within the recruitment sector works in every sector. So we all work quite similarly, but now I know a lot more about tech, and I know a lot more around our kind of client set, etc., and where we're trying to move to as well, because we also have a train and deployment brand as well as a kind of a recruitment brand. So it's been a really exciting journey for me, but actually I took on a big different step, and I probably took quite a risk. But they often say, don't they, risk takers are always successful. I'm not sure if that's 100% the case, but I know I think I've got a lot of characteristics that are quite female, and I'm probably not a massive risk taker, and I'm often probably wouldn't push myself forward into roles that I'm actually very capable of doing. And so therefore I'm one of those people that I always have to remember, if a male has done 30% of the job, then they'll put themselves forward, rather than female will have had to done 70%. I often find that I actually need to put myself forward more because I'm incredibly capable. So, and I'm sure a lot of people on the call are as well. So that's kind of my career progression to date. And what's brilliant with moving into Frank is that I've got the next year planned, but I've also got potential to progress further as well, which is a really nice feeling, because actually, as a person that loves a challenge, and I actually make my life quite difficult by continually wanting a challenge, I sometimes find that if there is nowhere that I'm moving and I'm just in easy street, that doesn't work very effectively with my personality type.
Yeah, that kind of like that. You're so well describing initiative, and that kind of the relationship to challenge and risk is really key in kind of making that movement forward. Angelita, did that answer your question? Has anybody got any other questions? Because I suppose I was interested in what you were saying about sales, because actually, sales is still quite a big part of the tech industry. And I suppose, what advice would you give to people in terms of building that kind of skill set, as well as other aspects of their kind of like skills base?
I think even if you're selling yourself or your tech stack, there's so many opportunities, isn't there, within kind of sales. I think you really want to look and see who your target audience is to start with. So for me, I'd be looking at my target clients. You'd be looking at kind of, what firms you might want to kind of sell your tech to, or kind of what firms you'd want to work at, etc. So I think when you're selling yourself, you want to be giving yourself a kind of, I think, a clear end goal, but I think what you need to do is make sure that you're always making the client the most important part of kind of all of that process. So adding value. I call it adding value. Like there's a lot of benefit for us to kind of, place 25 coders with a certain client. Obviously that's fantastic for us because it would make us a revenue stream, but we also want to add value to that client. We want to make sure that they hit their kind of ED&I statistics, so that they are making sure that they're producing both kind of an inclusive working environment, but also retaining those kind of diverse staff that they may have kind of hired in, and that they're also utilizing all of the talent pools that are at their kind of disposal. So I definitely feel like every time you have a conversation, you probably should be selling, actually.
Haven't thought of that.
Kind of true, because even if you're at a networking event and you're meeting someone, actually you kind of want to be selling yourself, because actually they may know someone that's looking to hire, that wants a coder, and all of a sudden the opportunity arises, doesn't it? And lots of people find things directly. They don't always use recruitment agencies at the start of their career. I find that we normally come into play more when a candidate has got perhaps 2 or 3 years experience above.
Yeah. And that really links to this next question, which also touches on that point you were saying about, kind of how women are less likely to put themselves forward. So Amalia's asking, on the topic of progressing in your career, what advice do you have about self-doubt and overcoming those mental obstacles about your own ability?
Do you know what? I think that's one of the good things about having a mentor. I think they sometimes, if you have self-doubt and you talk about it with a mentor or even a family member, quite often they will be your kind of biggest cheerleader to put you forward. I think imposter syndrome is such a big thing, but it's such a shame. I think it's a real shame when people start to kind of overthink. I know that I've been a bit of a self-doubter in the past, and actually in some ways it probably did halt me for a little while, but actually I think the more you get exposed to how good you are, and the more you get kind of built up, I think you kind of can start to get over that. But a lot of that is mind over matter, and just getting your general confidence up.
Yeah, and taking little steps as well, kind of asking people for something that you think they're going to say yes to, but you don't feel like asking. It's those kinds of small steps. Angelita, do you want to unmute and ask your question, or would you like me to answer?
Sure, I can ask my question. Thank you, Catherine, for your presentation.
Sure.
I wanted to ask more about your mentorship program that you mentioned. And
so the Mentor Me program is actually for people with like tech professionals within AWS or Salesforce or Microsoft, and we normally have a cohort of kind of 5 within each tech stack each year, and we have a program for the mentees, and they sign up through kind of a portal, and it's over 6 months, and then we have the mentors are our clients, and then we kind of align people really that would fit in with the right kind of sector or experience or even personality type, so that they're gaining from it. And the mentors are both male and female, but it's a great program if you're at the start of your career, because I think sometimes you need to see that role model at the top, and you also need to get some kind of input, which is perhaps not quite as direct as asking your own boss. So yeah, it's been really successful in the past. I think there's been some really great feedback from it. So it's something that we're going live with again from April. And I'm sure that I think Coding Black Females run something quite similar. They have a mentor program. They're not, Mariam?
Yeah, we do. We do have a mentor program. Yeah. And we also have people have gone through the Restart programs on Amazon as well. So there may be some good connections. So if you need that shared more widely, we can share that on our systems.
We've also found that within our training and deployment brand Revenant, they have at times hired people with very little experience, and it's a reskill program, etc. So
brilliant. Revenants might be an interesting one for some of our team too. some of
Yes.
our previous students. So
Yes, absolutely.
that I'll follow that up too. Yeah. So are there any other questions? It might be good just to kind of go back to the reminder of these key points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So my top 8 are
Yeah,
step.
continuous learning is definitely
Yeah, continuous learning, setting clear
definitely
goals. The network is definitely a big piece for me.
Yeah.
Asking for feedback, because actually that will help you get more confidence as well. Because often feedback, there's not always as much negative as you think. There's a lot of positive as well.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
Taking on new challenges will give you massive confidence as well. I hope, because it's actually quite rare to completely fail at challenges. And if you do fail, you learn from it, don't you?
Yeah.
People learn from their mistakes as well as they learn from their kind of successes. You know, I've probably made a number of mistakes, I'm sure, over the years, and you either never do it again, or you grow out of it, and you grow from it. So yeah, developing leadership skills early on, I'm a big believer in. I like the thought of us all having a better work-life balance as we kind of grow in our careers. I think that sometimes you do have to really go for it at the start of your career to prove yourself, but eventually that balance does come. And then, showing initiative, think outside the box, always ask the question. That's what I truly believe.
Yeah. And I must admit, when you were talking about the developing leadership skills, the idea that you got an HGV license, kind of, the kind of things you can get involved in and ways to build those skills is really, really fascinating. And the other thing I would remind people of is the event we did last night, which was about finding opportunities to volunteer. And
Yes.
those also really help to develop your leadership skills too.
Yeah, we have a charity that we support in Africa. It's a school in a really, terrible slum area in Nigeria, and actually I'm off there in June actually to help at the orphanage and the school. So yeah, really exciting. And it's actually will just put me out of my comfort zone. I'll probably want to come back and adopt somebody, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just want to see if there's any other questions. Yeah, people are just saying that was fascinating, and yeah, so
Brilliant.
yeah,
I'm
so I
hoping I
think
can add value. Please do
we've come.
connect with me on LinkedIn. Drop me a message if I can support in any way. I know we do struggle to hire and place people when they've got no experience at all, but Revolant do sometimes are able to reskill and then kind of deploy people, etc.
Yeah.
But later on, we'll be able to really help as you push your career forward. So,
Yeah,
but if you want
that's
advice,
great.
I'm always here.
Yeah, brilliant. We've got a thumbs up, and
Okay.
people are saying thank you. So thanks so much, Catherine. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure. All right.
Thank
Good luck
you.
all.
Thanks for your support.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.